Hello and welcome to my Everything I Knit in 2025 video. I was originally not going to film this because I kind of thought like I've actually put shown most of the items that I knit in 2025 on my podcast, and I think I went through a little bit of that, like comparing myself to the other people who do these videos, and they're like stacks and stacks of knits. But then I started watching other people's and realized that like actually it's really not about that. And I don't, as much as like I have a lot of people that I follow and watch their podcasts, I don't see every podcast and I don't see every item that they knit, and I really enjoy watching them kind of reflect on the year and reflect on what they learned kind of in the big picture of their knitting. So I feel like worth doing. And yeah, so if you are new here, my name is Annalisa. I am a knitter based in London. This is Lola. She is a feature on this podcast because she's my little shadow and she loves to knit with me. And I'm just going to get into my knits. Most of them are here. I have 3 items that I have gifted at some point. So I'll just talk about those. Do I want to do chronological? No, I'm going to do accessories first, just because we'll get that out of the way. But basically, this is a stack of knits. It's going to topple over any second now. Let's put these here. All right, we're going to do sort of accessories, which is not very many that I did this year. If you've watched my latest podcast, you will know that I knit these for my husband. These are the Cozy Toes socks. They're just a kind of aran weight. Well, it's a free sort of charity sock pattern that you sort of figure out what yarn weight you have, and then it gives you kind of counts for needle size and sort of cast on numbers and things like that. So I knit these for my husband. I had knit one last year and I found the whip in my big basket of knitting, and I ended up knitting the second one right before Christmas and gave that to him. These are very quick to knit up, and it's great if you've just got like a bit of yarn lying around and want to do something with it. Everybody likes a nice pair of cozy socks, and these are a great color. These were knit in Drops Nepal. Probably not the best choice for socks, but it's fine. It'll be fine for a pair of cozy socks. These are great. So Cozy Toes, I knit another pair of these for a friend for his birthday, and they were in a reclaimed cashmere that I had got from this what's the brand? Tommy Hilfiger, very chunky striped cashmere, and I have enough to make probably 2 more pairs, maybe even more. So I started to knit one and then I ripped it out because it wasn't what I had in mind. But I had knit him a pair and they were just gray, basic Cozy Toe socks. And yeah, great pattern. There. Maybe here, because then you can come back up here. You can come back up. No, you want to scratch yourself on the floor. Then I only knit 3 pairs of socks this year, which I was actually kind of surprised by. I thought I'd knit more. These are the 2 that I have. They are both with self-striping yarn. And this is the first one that I knit. Probably, I don't remember when I knit these, to be totally honest. This is West Yorkshire Spinners Goldfinch is the stripy bit, and then Valley Yarns, it was just like a superwash sock yarn in their kind of yellow color. And I knit these. Yeah, I do wear them. They're lovely. I really enjoy knitting self-striping socks. I think they're quite fun. It's funny when I like put all of my knits together, it's very obvious that like I knit very colorful socks and very colorful other accessories, but actually most of my knits are quite subtle in color, very green this year. So that's that one. Then I knit this pair. This is Drops Fable in one of their self-striping colorways, and then Drops Fable is the white color, kind of cream color. So again, just a pair of socks I kind of have on my needles most of the time. I don't knit them quickly. I'm not in any rush to have them, but I do enjoy knitting socks. I find them a very easy project to kind of have on most of the time. So that's that. And then the only other kind of accessory I knit was this hat. This is the Hipster Hat by Petit Knit. And, oh, sorry, these are both Summerlee's I'm So Basic sock. And I knit another one exactly like this and gave it to a friend of mine over the summer for her birthday. So yeah, I've only ever knit this sock pattern actually, other than the Cozy Toes ones. And I think that is a goal of mine this year, is to knit some more like patterned socks and interesting socks. But I guess the reason I like knitting socks is because I just kind of can pick it up and go, and it's super easy. So maybe not, we'll see. We'll see how we go. Right. Sorry, I'm not rushing through this. I'm trying to film this before I go on holiday, and I feel like my energy is just a little anxious. So I'm gonna try and breathe and enjoy this and enjoy the year of wonderful knitting, and not stress out about the fact that I haven't packed and I need to put away Christmas and all the stuff that comes with going on holiday, or going to visit family, I should say. It is a holiday, going back to California, basically. This is the Hipster Hat. I knit this out of reclaimed cashmere, 100% cashmere yarn that I got out of a John Lewis sweater. This was probably my best find in terms of secondhand cashmere on the internet. It's like £3 for this whole sweater, and the front and back were this really thick knit, and then which I would say probably close to like a DK, heavy DK, and then the sleeves and stuff are really more fine. So I'll do other things with that. I have other plans for those. And then this is, yeah. I did this, the changes I made to this were basically I did a, so I did a twisted, I did twisted rib across it, because I actually enjoy knitting twisted rib and I find it just neater. So I did 2x2 twisted rib. I followed the directions mostly until we got to the kind of decreases, and then I did a couple of the decreases more quickly, just to kind of make it less, I didn't want there to be too much space up here, and I'm very happy with how it turned out. And I've worn this loads this fall, really enjoyed it, and I love the color, like the color is perfect, and yeah, I wear it pretty regularly. I find like a hat, like a good warm hat, to be the difference between, I get my hair back to normal, to be like the perfect thing to just stick in your bag, because it just warms you up so much more than any other article of clothing. So if you're cold, if you're out and like running around, or you're sitting outside for some ridiculous reason, you can put on a hat and like it will keep you toasty. And you know, we lose a lot of heat through our heads, so good thing to have. And I love me a cashmere hat. All right, getting into the knit. So that's actually all of the accessories made, except for my toy. This one I made for Christmas. I knit this in about a month, but it probably would have taken less if I had knit it kind of consistently. I think it probably would have only taken me a week. And this is the Grinch pattern. I will put it up. I loved knitting this. It was a completely different knit experience. I'm about to put him away into storage in my Christmas like ornaments and decorations. And this was a great pattern if you are new to toy knitting. There was a video, there was lots of sort of step-by-step instructions. It has like articulated little legs, which is super fun, and a little scarf. I knit this mostly out of scrap yarn, so everything except for the green is scrap yarn. And I knit 2 strands of Valley Yarns sock yarn in this green color, and then I held it with 1 strand of mohair. And it was like a scrap mohair that I had inherited from somebody, and then a bunch of other scraps is in the body, and it basically 2 strands of fingering, 1 strand of mohair throughout. And that got me the right kind of gauge for this. And yeah, I love him. He's wonderful. We'll be knitting another toy next year for like around Christmas. I think that is going to become very much my tradition around that time of year. It was really fun to do it like in the lead up to, just because I wanted to finish it early December so that it could go into like be out on display, and it brought me so much joy throughout the season. So big win on that one. I think possibly my favorite knit of the year. Lola is way too interested. Like she's just staring at it right now. You can come up, but you can't eat him. Come on, up. Yeah, you can sniff him. Kind of freaked out, not gonna lie. Leave him. Good girl. All right. So that is all of the like non-garment items that I knit. I think I'm going to try and do chronological for this next bit. I have filmed some try-on clips for each of these, and I'll put those in. The first thing that I finished in 2025 was this Sadie top by Woozy by Celine, and it is a very sort of light, transparent, knit on it's 1 strand of a sort of fluff yarn, and then you knit it on like, I think 6 millimeters, so really loose gauge. It was actually really fun to knit. So I knit mine out of Lang Cashmere Dream. And so this is so soft. It is so light. It's kind of like a lovely cozy layer. You do need to wear something underneath it. I'm not quite at the stage in life where I'm wearing like bras underneath transparent tops. Don't say that. Maybe I will someday. Who knows? But I did a couple modifications to this. I did not do quite as like wide of sleeves as she has in the pattern. That just felt a little too impractical to me. And then I did an I-cord bind off on the edges. And that I quite like that. I saw one of her testers had done that. I would absolutely knit another one of these. So this is all knit in the round, where you kind of like do a bit of a shoulder bit and then increase the arms, and yeah, it was really fun to knit. I knit most of it on airplanes on my trip last New Year's to California. So I knit a lot of it in California. And I kind of love having those like memories with specific trips and times of the year. So this, I think that the thing that stops me from wearing this is probably the transparentness of it, just because I think I'm a little bit like, I have to be wearing the right thing underneath it. I do also, so I think if I were to knit this again, I do actually have yarn to knit this again, but I think I'm gonna knit a short sleeve version. Again, one of her testers did this and I thought it looked great. It's sort of a green version. And I would hold this yarn double for the next one. I have basically, this took 2 skeins of the Cashmere Dreams, which is an expensive yarn, but 2 skeins, it's not such an expensive garment. I think this cost me like 30 pounds maybe total. And I have a whole other skein of this color. So at some point I'm going to do kind of a scrappy project for that stuff. But this is, yeah, I love this. It's beautiful. It's not super wearable, this transparent for me, but maybe I just need to find a better kind of styling for it. And yeah, I did mention this in my first podcast, but I think Ideally, that pattern is probably a little bit better for actual mohair. I don't knit with a lot of mohair, at least not to go on my skin. I find it uncomfortable. So I did just kind of, I was like, oh, the cashmere, but I think mohair does kind of like push your skin away, and this kind of clings to you. So there's definitely, you'll see it in the try on clips, like it definitely like goes close to the body, and which is very lovely and warm and delightful feeling. But then the airiness lets a bunch of air come through, so it's not super warm. And yeah, it's a lovely piece. I'm very happy with it. All right, so then the second thing I finished in 2025, I have not shown on the podcast yet, and this is the Flora sweater by Irene Lynn. Lynn? Yeah. I love her designs. I think they're stunning. This was a project that I had actually started in 2024, and then I ran out of yarn and had to get some in the States, so I didn't finish it until I came back. I think I finished it in March, maybe. And it has this beautiful kind of lace detail at the neck. It has a very long sort of twisted rib, whatchamacallit, raglan, that goes all the way down the side, which is lovely. And then you do the same kind of detail at the hem and at the sleeves. And the hem and the sleeves are then connected by a 3-needle bind off. So you get this kind of like seam detail, which I really love. And I knit this in. So I had some yarn from a period in my life when I did knit quite a lot of hats. And I, at that point, had gone out and bought a bunch of yarns. And one of them was this yarn that I got, this cashmere yarn that I got on Amazon, which, let's be honest, is probably not the most sustainable place to be buying yarn, but it's there. So I had 3 balls of this kind of like sagey green color. And then I found some other kind of what I thought was probably going to be quite similar yarn on eBay in this sort of green color, like this more bright emerald green color. I've since kind of realized that that yarn is yarn that you can buy on Temu, which I probably wouldn't recommend, but it's not bad yarn. Unsustainable, highly unsustainable, probably. But then again, you just don't know. And that's probably the downside of it, is you really don't know where this yarn is coming from. It is, so the one from Amazon says it's 100% cashmere. I think that's probably true. I don't think it's the best quality cashmere. It's definitely a bit, I would say there's some wool content in there, or at least it's not a very soft cashmere. And then the kind of bright green one apparently has 2% polyester in it. And I don't know if that's true. I don't know if it's 98% cashmere and 2% polyester. I'm skeptical with all of it. But I liked the marl that it created. I love a marl. I love kind of variation in yarn in that way. And I think it turned out really nice. Am I going out and buying a lot more of this yarn? No, I do still have some from that period where I bought a few different yarns. I'm not really inspired to knit with them, and I have so many like garments that I've bought to kind of reclaim yarn from that most of my plans actually are from those when I look at 2026. So I'm not entirely sure if I'm going to keep the yarn or if I'm going to destash it or what, but maybe who knows, make that decision when I come to it. The pattern is lovely. The pattern is easy to follow. I really enjoyed knitting it. It's some like intricate detail around the neck, but then there's a lot of stockinette. It's very simple. I do wear this quite a lot. I especially wear it around Christmas because it kind of reminds me of little Christmas trees. It's a little bit cropped on me. I'll show the like cutaway image at some point. The one thing I would say, and this is true, I have another Irene Lynn pattern next. The one thing I would say about her kind of detail patterns, so both of these have stockinette portions kind of in the body, and then sort of a detailed edge of some kind. And I think the downside, I don't know enough about the design process to know how this all works, but there's a lot in the design of a garment that comes down to proportions. And when you look at like a sample photo of a garment, you're kind of buying into the proportions of what they've created, because there's only so much you can do with knitwear. Like, yes, there's lots of innovative different ways of approaching. Designers do great stuff, but a lot of it comes down to how they've pieced the elements together to create a certain level of proportion, whether that's boxy or fitted or, wider cuffs or whatever it is. So one thing I've found from these two patterns, and it's something that I just keep in mind when I'm looking at patterns now, is that there's a pretty significant difference in the overall proportions of this garment, which, let's be honest, is not a huge size. Like, I think I knit a size 3. There's to the version that she did for herself, where this bottom part in particular is much more of like a chunk. So it's a much like the proportion of stockinette bit to hem bit is quite a lot more similar than this one, where the hem is, a small portion of it. And I would say that for the cuff as well. So I think it's something that I probably would have done differently with these ones, is I probably would have made, even though I wouldn't have changed the lace detail, because I think that would have been difficult to do, try and like scale that up somehow. I would have continued the ribbing bit a little bit further just to create that proportion to the rest of the garment. And I definitely would have done that on the bottom as well, just to kind of create a bit more proportion. So I'll talk about it a little bit, the next garment that I did, but I sort of did that with that one. But basically, like, every single size in this garment, the hem detail and the wrist detail and all of that are exactly the same dimensions in terms of length. And that seemed a bit strange to me because, yeah, obviously it just changes the look of the garment. So I now keep that in mind quite a lot, especially with her patterns, because I think her torso is quite a lot shorter than mine. But I've seen it in other designs as well, where, as you scale up and the sample photo kind of, the proportions are just out of whack with your expectations. So yeah, it's more of a, like, I clearly, if you've watched my podcast, you know that, like, I have no problem altering a pattern. I do it all the time. It's pretty much all I do. So this one I did knit pretty much to pattern, except for that I made the body longer because my body needs to be longer. And that changed the dimensions or the proportions of the whole garment, if that makes any sense. But I do love this. I think it's a beautiful color. I think it is a beautiful piece. It's somewhere in between being kind of fancy and kind of simple, and I love that. I do wear it. I do enjoy it. And yeah, happy with this one. Beautiful, beautiful pattern. Do recommend the pattern. So that's that one. I think I finished that in March. And then I cast the next one on. I don't know which one I did first. I'm going to do this one next. So I cast the next one on right before I went on a trip to Florida to visit my dad. And this is another Irene Lynn pattern. And this is the Lyra top. And I think this is beautiful. It is something I'm very proud of because it's a very kind of small gauge. I think I knit this on 3mm and probably less for the collar itself. It has a folded over collar that you start with, and then you do some German short rows, and then you increase out, and then you've got these kind of twisted rib sleeves with little cables in them. That is a similar repeat to the bottom. And it's quite cropped, but I imagined how I would wear this would just be with like a, you know, dress pant of some kind, probably high-waisted. And I thought this would be kind of a nice not work, but like professional and nicer clothes, basically, like slightly fancier. And I knit this almost I knit this like the sample because I thought it was just stunning. I saw the pattern. I was like, I love that. I pretty much cast it on after I saw the pattern come out. So beautiful. And I would say that there's like, I haven't worn this a ton, and there's probably 2 reasons for that. So, well, probably 3 actually. I think one was I finished knitting this in May, end of May, and we actually had quite a warm summer, so there wasn't that much opportunity. And then when the fall came around, I don't know if short sleeves are quite fall. I think this is a little bit more of a spring garment, so I will see if I get more wear of this in the spring. I also kind of forgot I had it. I think it was in the back of my cupboard. Other reason I don't really wear this, I think, which I didn't really anticipate, is the sleeves are actually quite chunky, and I find it a little awkward to put under a coat. So even though it's a fine knit and it is fingering, it's basically fingering weight. So the yarn, I knit this with 1 strand of the Cashmere, the Lang Cashmere Dreams. So this is their fluff yarn, which is a silk cashmere fluff yarn. I used it on the Sadie top, and I think somebody was having a sale when I was looking for fluff cashmere yarns and found a bunch of this stuff on sale and bought it. But on sale, it was still like £15 per skein. So, but it's 300 meters in a skein. I used 3 skeins for this, whereas I used 2 skeins for the Sadie top. This is obviously much denser fabric. And then 1 strand of a very light fingering reclaimed cashmere yarn. I tried to find a picture of the garment before I reclaimed it. I couldn't find one. I couldn't find when I bought it. It must have been a very long time ago. I think it was a 360 cashmere jumper that had a bunch of holes in it, and I just had pulled it apart. But it was definitely a lighter fingering weight fabric. Yarn, and holding that with the silk in sort of a cream color, and then holding that with the Lang Cashmere Dreams. And yeah, the other thing I would have done different. Okay, so coming back to what I was saying about the Irene, the Flora sweater, this one I would say I kind of had that in mind. So what I was talking about in terms of proportions. And I realized pretty quickly, well, when I knit this, you knit the body and you kind of like knit it all in the round from the top. So you kind of do the increases on the shoulder bit, and then you kind of expand out to create the sleeves, and then you continue on with the body and then pick up for sleeves later to kind of create some length in the sleeves. So when I knit the body, I kind of very quickly realized that I needed to make, so in her pattern, this is going to be very complicated to explain. In the pattern, the cable detail sits in the middle of the rib. So I kind of realized when I did, according to pattern, the band at the bottom, I wasn't going to have enough length to kind of create the proportion that I wanted of hem to the rest of the body. So you'll see that the cable is sort of at the top, and then I just kept going with length. And then on the sleeves, I did it as long as I wanted until I got to the cable bit and did that here. So basically what I'm saying is the cable is in a different part of the ribbing on the hem of the sleeves versus the hem of the garment. And I don't know if I would have been more intentional with that. I think it turned out great. I'm happy with it. I'm nitpicking details, but basically I think I could have centered the cable in the body, but at the point where I realized it was already kind of like, I would have had to rip it out and then like extended the rib bit and then put it back in. And I just decided it's fine. It's fine as it is. The other thing I probably would have done differently is the collar. I don't have issues with this splaying out. You can it kind of looks like I do when you're holding it, but I would say that this is kind of a lesson in general for things. Unless there's a really good reason not to, I will probably do provisional cast on for the majority of my collars, even if it is one that's kind of like knit in the round, just to give myself more flexibility on the collar, because I do change my mind quite a lot. So this one I would say had you did the, like on a very small needle, you knit and then folded it over and then knit it down and then continued knitting. And I probably would have done that after. And it would have just given me a little bit more control, because I think she does say in the pattern that some of her testers found that it did splay out. I might put some actual elastic in there just to keep it cinched in. But yeah, she mentions that, and that you could just do a ribbed collar, and I might have actually preferred that. I don't know. It is a really nice, like, neat finish this way, but I probably would have enjoyed a rib finish as well. But it's like, by the time when you knit it all the way from the top down, there's just no choice to kind of change it. I do still have this little thing sticking out to remind myself what the front and the back is. Probably come up with a better way of doing that. But yeah, I'm really proud of this. I think it's absolutely stunning. I want to wear it more. The other reason I don't wear this a lot is I'm just terrified of ruining it and getting stuff on it. So I need to get over that and just enjoy it, because that's why I knit it. But yeah, beautiful piece, beautiful pattern, well written. I love her patterns. I love her designs. I think that they are incredibly, they kind of balance that basic but with something extra. A lot of them do. I have a few that I really want to knit next year, but for now I'm very happy with the 2 that I knit this year. All right, let's move on to my next, which is the which one's this? Late Checkout Sweater by Kutabakika, Veronica Lindbergh. And this I did not, well, this I basically started a different sweater with this yarn, which is the Drops Brushed Alpaca and silk, brushed alpaca silk. I don't know. I had started a different crochet project with this yarn. I then frogged some of that, decided to start something else, which was like a simple raglan, frogged that because it wasn't working, and then ended up, I think she came out with the Late Checkout Sweater around this time, and I had never done a drop shoulder in this way, and so I was like, oh, it has a video, I'll do that one. Like, it's a basic oversized drop shoulder sweater. I've since knit 3 of them, including this one, but this is the first one that I did, and at the same time as like learning this, I decided I wanted it to be kind of color changing and do a bit of an ombre effect. I love the colors that I chose. The reason this is so long is because I wanted to get to the pink. So otherwise I probably wouldn't have gone this long, but I actually really enjoy the length. It's different to other knits that I have. I do wear this a lot. I throw it on. I wasn't sure I would, just because I don't wear a ton of alpaca. It can be sometimes a little scratchy, but this one I don't find that. I just enjoy it. I'm usually wearing it over stuff. Okay. Yeah, I'm usually wearing it like over long sleeve shirts and things like that. So, but even then if I'm wearing it with a t-shirt or something, I don't really feel it. I guess I don't really wear it next to skin, like on my chest area. Although the neckline really doesn't seem to bother me. And this was knit, I want to say on 5mm with 2 strands of the brushed alpaca. And I just, yeah, so it goes from like the sage green, and then I kind of held one strand of the sage, one strand of the gray, and then transitioned from there. I would probably just, if I was doing this again, do the transitions between the colors slightly different, where instead of just doing like one row of color A and then one row color B, and I did that a couple of times, I would spread those out a little bit so that there's a gradient in the transition as much as there is a gradient in the colors, if that makes any sense. Basically, I would do like, let's say I was doing pink, I would do one row of orange and pink, one row of pink, maybe 2 rows of orange and pink, 1 row of pink, and like, so it blended a little bit more. That's probably not very clear, but I enjoyed knitting this. I love the colors. I think that's a big part of why I reach for it, is I love something a little bit fun in my wardrobe, and this is very casual. It's very throw on, go to the pub, take the dog out, be, cozy. Because it's quite a loose gauge, actually, it does get air through it. So even though it's very warm, when it's over a coat, I can take the coat off and it just like airs out really nicely. So yeah, love this one. I don't remember how long it took me to knit it. I don't remember when I started it. I don't remember when I ended it. I could probably look over pictures on my phone, but I'm not going to do that. It's a mystery what happened half of this year anyway, so I enjoy it. I love it. And that is that one. I did say the name of I said the designer. I probably didn't put the needle size for most of these, but I will try and put them up on screen with each of the items. I'm also going to use this as a great excuse to update my Ravelry pages, because I haven't done that for a while. Okay, next one is one that I probably, again, I don't remember when I started this, but it is another late checkout sweater by Veronica Lindberg. This one I knit, I think, mostly to pattern. So actually all 3 of these are the late checkout. They're completely different in terms of how they've come out. So this was made with a reclaimed cotton cashmere, 50% cotton, 50% cashmere jumper that I found on eBay, and I knit this mostly to pattern. I think the only thing I do differently in this is for this one, well, I guess I did a few things. One was I picked up probably more stitches than the pattern recommended, because I like looser sleeves. And then I did a little bit of short row shaping on the shoulder just to give it a bit better shape. I think I probably did maybe 6 turns, like 3 rows of short row shaping. And then the cuff, I did this on all the ends, which was basically to do a rolled cuff at the end of the 2x2 rib. I've left it on the sleeves. I've taken it off the hem and the collar, just because I decided that didn't look right. I talk about this more in, I think, one of my first podcast episodes. And I'm pretty sure I knit this on the recommended needle size. I probably went a little bit oversized. I tend to do that for this kind of pattern. And then, yeah, I love the shaping on the back. I think that looks so nice and sleek. I wear this all the time. Like, I do genuinely wear this all the time. And yeah, I really love it. It's like a sweatshirt. It's just a little bit cozier because of the cashmere content than like I have a gray sweatshirt, like basic sweatshirt that is cotton, and I wear that quite a lot in the summer. And then this is like perfect transitional weather. Really cozy, really lovely, just makes me happy. And yeah. Oh, and I did a split hem. That was the other difference that I did here. And that's just, again, to kind of keep it loose and airy. Eventually I did the folded over collar. Oh, and I did the like welt around the neck, which I really enjoyed. And I quite like that. So yeah, my second, originally I finished this in June, and then I officially finished it with the changes that I made to the collar and stuff in September maybe. So it was one of those that like sat and I didn't wear it because it had these details that I didn't really like, and then I finished it, and since then I've been wearing it loads. Cotton cashmere, late checkout sweater from Veronica Lindbergh. So that is that one. And then I think it's this one, which is the, again, late checkout sweater, but totally different. I am absolutely going to knit another one of these, kind of how I did, but slightly different gauge, and probably completely different gauge. Probably I'm going to self-draft it, but like based on the concept that this one turned out as, which is basically a very cropped 2x2 broken rib with some details that I really like around the neck. It's kind of a mock neck, but like loose and comfortable. You can kind of, I'm going to take this off so you can actually see it. Yeah, so really enjoy it. It's very cropped, it's very boxy. I did some really fun decrease details on the, just on the arms, which I would probably do a little bit more of just to get a slightly tighter fitting sleeve, although I do love the sleeve this way. And then I also did, I think I did a couple decreases right around the hem to create, yeah, I did. They're there. Can't really see them, but this is, maybe you can see them. Yeah, just a few decreases just around the hem to create, so that it just kind of goes in instead of splaying out. I do find that, I put this back on, I'm gonna forget. I do find that like I throw this on all the time. I wear it all the time. Put you there. I just like, it's so cozy. I think the fact that it's black, as much as that makes it like a terrible knitting podcast type garment, I do find that the fact that it's black means that I can throw it on when I'm like about to go on a call and it feels slightly more professional somehow. So I think there's something to that kind of like darker colors that this, both the design, like the broken rib and the broken rib and the color just kind of make it really wearable for like work type stuff, but also just to throw on and be really comfortable. The fact that it's like loose means that I don't get too warm on calls. Sometimes I do get quite warm on calls. So I like, yeah, the airiness, and I love everything about this. I want to knit multiple in this sort of style. So I think that's going to be in my plans for 2026, maybe even one in like a cotton, just to, yeah, try some different yarns out, but also just kind of have more of a summer garment in this style, because I think this would suit a summer garment really well. This is quite a thick, so this is a reclaimed cashmere silk that I got from a Joseph sweater, and it is a, yeah, it's quite a, it's not chunky. I would say this is like heavy worsted, maybe even aran. It's definitely like a chunky sweater, and the fact that I've made it all boxy adds to that. So I want to try this with like a few different yarn types and see if it works. I think it will. I think it'll be really just, I think it's just a really versatile, but feels slightly more interesting. And also the 2x2 broken rib for me is really fun to knit, because it keeps you, helps you keep track of like your increases. And yeah, so I'm probably gonna do another one of these, or some variation on this concept in the new year. And so I only have 2 more garments, both of which I have shown. Oh no, I haven't. Well, no, I have shown. The first one is my blouse number 1, which looks nothing like blouse number 1 because I did it in 2x2 broken rib, because that's what I was doing. Oh, timing for this. So I actually cast this on in, I think I cast this on in July, and I actually cast it off probably early August. So it was pretty quick knit. And I started it on a trip to Austria and yeah, I cast it off, I think, right before I went to California. So then I cast this on right when I was going to California in the summer. And this, I knit this quite large for sizing wise. I think I did the extra large kind of equivalent. I'll put those details in the notes. And I knit this with a cone yarn, which is a Japanese silk, held double. It's kind of a very like thick and thin textured silk. So originally I cast this on as the pattern kind of intends, with just stockinette. And then I realized that the yarn, I wasn't really going to be happy with that, just because of the texture in the yarn and the fact that there's a lot of unfinished elements to the blouse number 1. And so I decided to make it broken rib, because that gave it a little bit more kind of geometric structure. I love this thing. I've worn it. I wore it quite a lot since I finished it. So I finished it in September, I think, or October, early October maybe. And I ended up wearing it like to multiple dinners and out, and like just, it's definitely more of like the drapiness of it, it has a little bit of sheen to it. It has a little bit of just fanciness to it, I guess. Like it feels luxurious. The only thing I will say is I am debating adding more length to the sleeve. I have more of the silk, and I could definitely add a little bit. You'll see in the kind of try on clips that it is a little bit, I think partially because of like when I have my arm straight down, then it probably goes to like here. And I think it could go to like here, and maybe with a few decreases just to kind of cinch it in at the wrist a little bit. But otherwise, I think it's great. Oh, at the bottom hem, and did I do this at the cuffs too? Yeah, at the bottom hem and at the cuffs, I actually transferred to like normal rib for the last few rows just to cinch it in a little bit. And I don't know if that did anything, but I love it, so we're happy. This yarn did transform in blocking. It was so different. I bought the yarn for this one and the next one from an Etsy seller. I will leave them linked below. They won't have either of these yarns anymore, but they always have like really interesting, fun yarns, and often decently priced, both in like cashmere, and it's all like cone yarns that you buy 50-gram units of, and then they spin it off. But she usually only has like one cone of a type of yarn, and then once it's gone, it's gone. So I think it's probably dead stock kind of cones that she gets. So yeah, I absolutely loved this. And I love this yarn, and I think enough to do a tank of some kind next year. So we'll see if I use that for that. Or if I add the sleeves, extra sleeve length to this, who knows? All right, we're at the last one. God, I feel like I've been talking forever. All right, the next one is, let's see, how long have I been talking? I have no idea. Usually it tells me. That may or may not be a bad sign. All right, the next one is my Vivi cardigan, which is not officially done. I'm counting it. I'm counting it in this year because I want it, like, to me, this associates with the end of this year. So I cast this on right after I filmed my first, oh, I forgot one. I have given it away, that's why. So I may or may not get it back when I go to California, but I knit the Off-Grid top by Rose Knitwear. I'll put up pictures. It is a tank top in sort of a slip stitch multicolor pattern, similar to the Off-Grid sweater, but obviously designed to be with negative ease and all the rest of it, and straps. So I knit that in cotton cashmere, mostly cotton. I think it's like 10% cashmere. And I knit that in some very bright colors, and I don't really wear tank tops, and I wasn't I don't really know why I cast it on. It was in the book, in her book Knit, and I love that book. I love the pattern of it. I'm really happy I knit it because I think it's inspired some thinking of what I might end up doing for another version of this. It just wasn't really my style. I gave it to my friend in California to see if she could find a way to style it. And if she doesn't, then I'm going to bring it back and I have an idea of how I might actually style it and wear it. It is a very cute top. I probably will need to like mute it slightly color-wise, like dye it slightly, just to give it a bit of more my colors. It's super cute, and yeah, we'll find a way to make it work. But basically it's currently living in California and it may or may not come back home with me. So yeah, that's the Off-Grid top by Rose Knitwear. It was really fun to knit. I find her patterns generally really fun to knit. So that was definitely a fun knit this summer that I did. But I'll put up pictures. And then the last one that I knit is my Vivi cardigan. So this is an all-over cable cardigan. The original one is a bit more of like a cardigan, so it's quite close fitting. It's a DK weight pattern. I've knit mine in a heavy DK / worsted, so it's a little bit more robust or chunky, and that's all intentional. So my vision for this was more of like a jacket, cable jacket, and I wanted something that was a bit looser. I could wear stuff underneath it, so I did knit up multiple sizes and make a bunch of changes to it to make it more that style. So a lot of the changes I made were kind of creating a seam effect, which again, in my head, this is like what makes it more jackety. So I did things like this seam to break the shoulder definition, and then a seam on the sleeve here. There's parts of this have not been blocked. This sleeve has not been blocked. As you can kind of tell, it's a bit stiff. This sleeve has mostly been blocked except for the cuff. So why don't I show that one? I changed all of the reverse stockinette to seed stitch. I did completely different motif on the sleeves. I basically just improvised based on the motif that is in the pattern. I just did a variation of the cables. I did cable under the arm because I wanted something to break up the seed stitch. I did this sort of seam thing before the ribbing, and then I did a tubular cast off. I did double knit button bands. That is part of the pattern, and I did knit those to pattern, although I did follow the Florence Miller tutorial on the double knit button bands from her step-by-step cardigan. So there's a whole video on YouTube for that, and how she describes doing the buttonholes and the kind of casting off the button band. All of that I followed hers instead of the pattern, the Sari Nordland pattern. This is a pattern by Sari Nordland, if that wasn't obvious. I can't remember if I said that. The back is also kind of fully cabled. Honestly, I love knitting this. It was such a joy to knit. The yarn is another cone yarn from the Etsy seller that I mentioned. It is a Kariagi, not cotton. It is cashmere, 20%, 80% wool, merino wool, and it's a chainette style yarn that is like really just blooms with blocking, as most cone yarns do. It didn't change a lot of the shape, so I think because the cable stuff, like the cables expand and it shortens a little bit with blocking, but the actual like shape of the garment didn't change that much, so it doesn't change a huge amount. I would absolutely buy this yarn again if I found it for a decent price. I've found some, so the chainette style is, I think it's called their Puma. I'll put it on screen. And And I found some like 100% cashmere versions of this. They're a little out of, like, it would be, like, compared to a card of cashmere, it's probably very similar. Compared to what I normally knit with, it's a little expensive. So this was a pretty decent, yeah, this was pretty decent price-wise. I think this was about $6.50 maybe per skein, or per 50 grams. I think I used, I'll put up what I used because I can't remember, but I have a whole other like 100-gram cake of this and some leftover like 15 grams or something. So I haven't totally decided what I'm doing with that. I'm gonna wait until I block this, make sure I don't need the yarn for anything on this, and then I have an idea, but of what I'm gonna do with the rest of that. The one piece of this that I will probably end up redoing is the collar. Obviously I need to block the button band and all the other bits that haven't been blocked, and then I was just going to see how the collar looks to make sure I'm happy or not happy and what I want to do. The one like real actual issue is my button hole at the top is just a little bit too small, so I probably do need to redo this. It's also like the as much as I kind of like the height of the collar, it's a little bit too short for the button, so that I've chosen. I'll put a picture up of the button selection. I haven't attached them or anything. So if you want to see the final garment of this, do subscribe, and I will be probably showing this in January at some point when I'm back and I've had time to block it and weave in ends and do all that fun stuff. But highly recommend this pattern, especially if you are new to cables. I think it's a very easy cable experience and just really enjoyable cable experience. Or if you're just somebody who really wants like a process knit, I think that this is a great process knit, just from a relaxing, meditative, there's engagement, but it's not too much. I don't cable with a cable needle. I didn't have one when I first tried to do cables, and then now I kind of just don't use one. I don't know how to use one, and maybe I'll get to some projects where I really have to use a cable needle, but for now I'm good without one, and I absolutely love this. I will probably end up knitting other things from the Vivi collection. There's also a Vivienne collection, which I think is more, I think Knee Knits did one of those and she seemed to find that difficult. So I think if she found that difficult, I would probably find it very difficult. And there's similar motifs, but it's a little bit more complicated. And I think this one has just massively simplified the repeats in a way that makes it really enjoyable to knit. So yeah, that is everything. I have really enjoyed all of my knits this year. I feel like there's probably some room for me to, I have a lot of planning and thinking to do for 2026, and I've already been dreaming up new knits. I have a few things on my needles, different projects on my needles that I've talked about in my latest podcast, and I want to do a make 9, and I want to do a winter spring planning video, and I want to do kind of some, just some reflections on trends and things that I'm thinking about for next year, how I plan out what I'm thinking about knitting, and yeah, so all of that stuff. If that sounds interesting, please feel free to subscribe or come back and hang out whenever you feel like it. I hope all of you are having a great January. I don't know when I'm going to get this up. I know a lot of people have put theirs up already and I'm not being pressured by that because quite honestly, I'm in that like pre-travel chaos mode where I've decided to take out all of my knitted garments and just have them all over the house. So that's always good. And yeah, I hope you are all well. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you soon. Bye.